Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. Hi, welcome everyone. So this is a special episode. My guest is Emily Williams. She was on back several months ago, and the first time I talked to her on my podcast, I knew she had a coaching business, and I knew she was an entrepreneur, but I didn't know a lot about her. And so after we got off the phone, Emily sent me this beautiful book of hers as a thank you. It was sweet. And I finally read it, I think in February, Emily, maybe February or March. I just wanted to take it all in. And since obviously it's not from the library, I was like, okay, I'll wait to see, like I had other books going on. But I don't know if you got it from me. I sent you a note about this book.
I do remember reading it, but I can't remember all the details.
Yeah.
You reading out though.
Yeah, I wish I had it printed out, but it's just basically telling you how awesome the book is and how inspiring it is. And it's really aligned. So it's very much aligned to some of the concepts in my book that I'm just going to hold up right here that I just published in February. So when I was reading it, I was like, just some of the stuff you were talking about and some of the people that have inspired you have also inspired me. So it was just a really well-written book and very inspiring. And also I love it because just like my book, it talks about what's possible. And the more people can read stories about people just like you and me who figured out what they wanted and then achieved it, the more people realize it's real. It's not just for some people, it's for everyone. It's just a matter of if you want to believe it. So thank you for writing that awesome book.
Oh, thank you. That means so much that you took the time to share your thoughts. And yeah, I know that a lot of our methodology and the way that we think is very similar. So it's always amazing to chat with you.
I also always like to send notes because I know that people, I don't know who's reading my book. I get a review or I don't get a review, but there's people that are reading it and touched by it, but I don't hear from them. So I always make it a point because I know how important it is, especially now that I've written my own book. You don't know who's getting it or listening or reading or anything. So I'll always do that. So I also wanted to compliment you. I listened to, so you have a podcast too. It's called the I Heart My Life podcast. And that's the name of your business and your website, right? I Heart My Life. And this book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, I've never even heard of this book until you talked about it in your podcast. I'm not sure if you wrote about it in your book. But I didn't. You didn't write about it in your book? Oh my gosh. So I have been reading. I'm one of those people that reads dozens of books every couple of months. I'm always reading a couple. I didn't realize how uncommon that was. But the point is, I've never even heard of this book until I was listening to your podcast and you were breaking it down with your lessons about it. So I'm like, I have to get it. So I got it from the library. And usually that's what I do. I get a couple books from the library, read them, and then get some more. But I just decided today I have to buy it because I'm taking quotes from almost every page and putting them in my notebook on my iPhone so that I can remember these positive affirmations. And there's too many. I'm like, I just have to buy it. And then just because I'm going to be quoting them and I'm going to be talking about them. And I don't know when you discovered this book, but this book is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was actually one of my own podcast guests on the I Heart My Life show. And he was sharing that every single morning he reads a snippet of this book called The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity. And he literally just said it in passing, but I kind of locked that away in my mind because anything around prosperity, I always love reading. Mm-hmm. And so I got it and was devouring it and immediately thought, I have to do a whole series on this. I don't even care if anyone listens to it. Mm-hmm. I got to do it for myself because this is so good. But it's been a series that everyone has been talking about. All my clients have been obsessed with it. And yeah, that book is life-changing.
I am mad I didn't have it when I was 20. I'm mad I didn't have it when I was 30 or 40 for that matter. Because it's oversimplifying to say that your thoughts create, like, I know you're a fan of Mike Dooley because I read it we were on some podcast you had or newsletter, but He talks about your thoughts become things, so choose the good ones, and how much power there is in that, because, I think we're taught growing up, if you concentrate on the things that are going wrong, you can change them. If you concentrate on what's not working and what's negative, you can figure it out. And it's really the opposite. Sorry, I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, but that's my son. That's why it's going through.
No worries.
And I hadn't really considered. I just always thought effort, work really hard and everything will come to you. And it's really the opposite. I mean, you have to work hard. I know you believe in that too, but thinking about what you want to create instead of getting away from what you don't want to create or what you're stressed out about, or working at something instead of just allowing it to come to you. It's easier. Number one, it's more fun. You feel better. It's just a better experience in life. And I just think there should be like required reading for high school kids, grade school, junior high, whatever it is, just because you could teach kids how powerful their minds really are. And adults
Exactly. Yeah. The mind is so powerful, and all it knows is what we're feeding in. So if we're constantly thinking about the problems and why things can't happen or can't work, then we're going to get more of that. So it's so important to shift that perspective. And I think that book is really important also for people who were brought up in the church or with, a religious background, because she is a pastor and she actually writes it from the perspective of a pastor and talks about different biblical principles and refers to the Bible. And regardless of whether you're religious or not, it's impactful. But I think so many people grew up thinking that making a lot of money was bad or evil, or God doesn't want us to be wealthy. And it's actually the complete opposite. So it's been a really important book for a lot of my clients who have been, struggling with, can I be prosperous? Can I put myself first and still, maintain this belief system around Christianity specifically? Like, how do you kind of marry the two together? And she does that beautifully.
I totally agree. And I'm more of a spiritual person than a religious person, but yes, it's the same concept, which is what do you have faith in? And mostly believing in yourself.
Yeah.
And that there's something out there that's going to help you get what you want. So I'm so glad you're teaching this to people, and that it's becoming more the norm and more accepted than just like this woo-woo, like, sure, that sounds great for you, Emily, it worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. And here's why it's not going to work for me. Instead, it's just more and more proof and examples. The more we can see that, the more we realize it's not just a fluffy concept. It's real.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I've been doing my own experiments the last couple of months since I heard your podcast and started reading the book, and listening to some other people about, I don't know if you're a fan of Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks and all of that podcast too. So I've been listening to more and more of that and just doing all the positive stuff and not concentrating on any of the other things. And it's amazing how much lighter I feel, because it's going to happen and I'm going to figure it out. And it's like allowing it is so much easier than resisting.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, our mind can only focus on one thought at a time. And so if we're looking at the problems and just staying there, then we're not available to figure out the solutions. And so, like you said, getting into that space of creativity, yes, there might be challenges or problems or whatever, but you need to be in the right headspace to be able to figure out the solutions and work through that.
Yes, couldn't agree more. Okay, so I want to talk about your book. So now that I've written one, I understand what goes on behind the scenes, and it's fascinating to me. And I'm sure you get a lot of the same questions I've gotten, which is, why did you write it? How did you write it? How long did it take you and all that? So I just wanted to kind of talk about what your intention was first for the book. Like, so you have a business, you have a successful business. Were you like, I want to write a book. I always wanted to write one. I can't remember if I know this or not. Or were you just, someone said to you, all of this could be a book? Like, how did that come about?
I've always wanted to write a book, and it's actually the second book that I've written. I went to school for nonfiction writing. I got a master's in nonfiction writing. So for my degree, I actually had to write a book, and I wrote a book all about the world of online dating, and it hasn't been published.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about that.
I don't know if it will be published. So anyway, I always look at myself as a writer first and then a coach second. And so for me, the book was always part of my vision. Hay House, I actually got introduced to someone at Hay House. I got introduced by a friend who is also an author there. And then I had a conversation with them, literally submitted a proposal on a Friday and had a book contract moving forward by Monday. And so it happened really, really quickly.
Wow. So the proposal it wasn't even written. It was just, you have an idea and here's what you're thinking about the book's going to be. And they said,
Yep.
okay, write it.
Yep.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm someone who is all about taking fast action. And so I'm not, I wasn't scared that I had to do this in 72 hours.
Yeah.
And, the book had been brewing within, in a sense, because I'd been writing 5 years of emails and newsletters and working with clients. And so I had so much content and material, and I knew what my message was at that point. The only thing that really changed was that we initially thought it was going to be a book on how to build a business. But as I was writing it, that's not the book that was birthed. So I had a conversation with them later on about that, and they were really gracious, and we're okay with my creative direction and what I felt I was being called to write. And so although it's still in like the Hay House business section of the marketplace, it's more about possibility and mindset and moving past your fears. There are some, of course, action steps. I'm big on action steps, but it's not like a step-by-step, this is how you build your business.
I love that it didn't end up becoming that, because I think it limits who's going to pick it up. Like if I was just in corporate America and wasn't going to ever have my own business, I'd be like, oh, this is interesting. But now it's like, obviously you sent it to me, but I'm just, from that perspective, if I wasn't going to be an entrepreneur, these lessons are so important. And I think it's so much more broad this way. And I think more impactful. So obviously you were guided the right way, in my opinion, anyways. And
Yeah,
I'm glad
no,
you
I feel the
trusted that
same.
too. Instead of saying like, this is what they wanted me to write and continue with it, it wouldn't have been as good probably either, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like you said, creating a book is a very big deal, and it's a big project, and it takes time. So I knew that I had to be excited about it in order to deliver it into the world. And like I said, luckily they were okay with that.
Awesome. Okay. When did you decide? All right. So when did you decide to write it, and how long did it take? So obviously it was brewing and someone introduced you. So divine intelligence, right? Or divine intuition. Someone sent that person to you, or that person that's an author at Hay House that introduced you to them. That was divine, obviously. When you said, okay, I'm going to write it, how long? And they said, did they give you a deadline, or was it just like, I'll have it done in 6 months and I'll send it to you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, they did give me a deadline. I knew that it was going to be like we were going to be in the editing stage towards the end of the year. When I got the contract, it was in April.
Mhm.
And so I was trying to figure out how I wanted to write it. I knew I had whatever that is, about 8 or 9 months until we started the editing process. So I was living in London at the time, and I actually felt really called to write it somewhere else. Although I love London, I felt like I work from home. I'm here all the time. I want to go and be inspired. So I spent a good week researching different locations and tuned in to feel into what was going to be inspiring for me. And I looked at Paris, I looked at Bali, all these different places. And I was really open to where I felt called to write this. Ultimately landed on Florence in Italy. And so I booked myself a little over a week at the Four Seasons in Florence. And that was a big deal for me, because I was like, I'd done a lot of money mindset work, but even I was like, I'm just writing a book. Do I need to go to a 5-star hotel in a different country? Do I need to spend this money? Is this really important? But for me, it was, because I needed to get out of like the norm and get myself into a creative headspace, and to kind of be on my own and have that environment was really important. So I made that decision and did that. It was the first week or so of July of that year. And my process was a little bit different maybe than from somebody who isn't normally writing a lot. Because I had a lot of newsletters, I actually pulled together some of my favorite ones, some of my favorite stories, some of my blog posts, and had like a big document where everything lived. And so I kind of just combed through and segmented out certain stories or paragraphs or whatever that still spoke to me, that I knew I wanted to include in the book. So honestly, I wrote the first draft very quickly, within a matter of weeks. And I wrote a big portion of it in Italy. And then when I got back home in the morning, I was the most creative. So I would do like 2 or 3 hours every single day. So the first draft happened really quickly, but the editing process was a little bit of a different story.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did something similar. I had all these workshops that I had been delivering for a couple of years, and my sister was actually the person that said, I loved delivering those workshops, and I loved the topics I was talking about. It was possibility and connection and resilience. She's like, and she's a writer also. She's in English. She's also has a master's in. She has a doctorate in English, something with English. She has a master's too. Anyways, she's a writer, and she said, you know that these workshops could be chapters in a book. And I remember I was on a walk one day talking to her about a workshop I just delivered, and I was so pumped up about it. And she's like, when she said that to me, I'm like, huh. So that was like the first little inkling of it. And then I thought, she's like, every time you talk, that's just, those are words in a book. I'm like, oh, that's right. They could be. So it took a couple of years. I had a corporate job at the time, and I was, figuring it out. But then in 2019, I went to a conference. I don't know if you've heard of Mama Gina or the School of Womanly Arts.
Yeah, I have.
I went to a mastery program there. And when I got back, I was there 2 days in New York. And when I got back that Monday, I called my best friend and I said, I have to figure out a way to, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to write a book. It was very much kind of like your thing. I'm taking action. And I'm also one of those people that's like, I'm just going to try it. And if it's not what I think it's going to be, or it's not exactly how I want, I have to take action immediately. I'm very much like that. I research things, but I don't say, let me think, I have to make the perfect email and then this. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to send that email. I'm just going to do that thing. I'm just, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I did the same thing, but also my brother's wife was diagnosed with lung cancer a couple months before that. And it was one of those things where it was imminent, her death. And I was like, she was turning 52 and I was turning 50 that year. And I said to myself and my friends, my family, like, no one's guaranteed anytime. No one knows what's going to happen. I could wait, or I could do this now when I'm really drawn to do it and I'm really inspired to do it. Or I could just keep thinking I have enough time. Just like my sister-in-law thought she had, she didn't know at the beginning of that year that was going to happen to her.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I'm like, I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to be that person saying on my deathbed or whenever, I could have done this and now I can't do it because something else got in my way. And so I just was like, I come hell or high water, I'm doing this year. And so I just started, that was April. In August, I started putting it all together. I had the chapters and everything. And then I just started writing and a little bit every day, like you said. And I was most creative in the morning. And I would just allow myself 2 hours because everything I read about said, just take the best time of the day to do it. And then be done with it, instead of like with the effort, instead of just like drudging on all day and trying to figure out what I want to write about. No, I have 2 hours and I would open up a chapter and I would say, I'm going to write another story about gratitude. And if nothing came to me right away, I go, is it resilience, curiosity? And then I would go to that chapter, write the story, write a couple of pages, and then be done with it. So that's how I did it. And it's not, I'm sure everyone's style is a little bit different, but I think if you follow your creative path and say, when does it work best for me? Or maybe it's 8 hours on a Saturday afternoon or whatever, do whatever works for you. But I was surprised at how quickly it happens when you actually just put the time aside. Like you said, you get everything together and you just start writing, it's there. And if there's something for you to write about, it comes pretty easily.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I love that. I actually posted in a Facebook group of a bunch of colleagues who I knew had written books, and I was asking for advice before I decided to write mine, and just asked about their methodology. And literally everyone had a different way of doing it. So I just realized I just need to make this my own and figure out what works for me and go for it.
It's a great lesson too, because I'm one to ask as well. Hey, do you have some feedback? Do you have an idea? Do you know someone, whatever? I'll get it all. And then I'll just usually go with what I was thinking anyways.
Yeah.
At least you asked. And if someone gave you this big light bulb moment, you're like, oh, I'm going to do it that way. I didn't know that would work. Then you have it, but at least you're getting the ball rolling and you're starting the momentum building anyways, either way.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally.
Okay. What did you hope to achieve when the book was finished? So you get this contract, what's coming out at the end of the year. What were you thinking like when it got published and released? Were you like, I hope what was the main thing you really wanted to achieve?
Just impacting more people. I feel like, a lot of what I sell, I have courses, I have a lot of different coaching programs. Some of it is quite premium in terms of the price point. So I want it to be able to reach more people and reach them where they're at. So, for some people, a book is kind of their first investment into the I Heart My Life world. And so I want it to be able to serve a wider audience. I also want it to be able to feature, a lot of the different mentors and teachers who I've learned from and be able to pass on my wisdom that I've gotten through them. I've spent a lot of money, a lot of time working with some of the best people. And so for me to kind of keep that knowledge to myself didn't feel right. So to be able to just spread that inspiration to whoever needs it, that was really the main purpose. And, I was always told by people, books aren't exactly like a huge money maker, at least not in the beginning. And so I never thought, oh, this is going to make a certain amount of money. I kind of saw it more as like I said, inspiration spreader, as well as kind of a business card, something I could give out to people so they would remember me, remember the message, potentially give it to a friend, something I'd be able to gift my clients. And then ultimately, I wanted to be able to share my story and be able to show other people what's possible. And I think having everything, in that book, it was just amazing to look back. And the way I decided to structure it, as you know, is the beginning of every chapter is my story. And then I go into the teaching and the lessons and what I've learned from other mentors, as well as what I've learned working with clients. And so it was just fun to be able to share that story and to put it out there.
It's beautiful. And you did a great job with the way you wrote it. Yeah. Having the stories, having the real life client stories is awesome. Having your experience and then the wisdom too. It's like, I feel the same way about mine. It's not, I didn't think for one second I was going to get rich writing it. I thought I have to get it out into the world and I want to have an impact, like you said. And it's like this, it will be here forever. My husband always says, it's part of your legacy. It's part of, and I wasn't thinking about that either when I was writing it. I was just thinking, I don't want everyone to have to struggle as much as I have to struggle. I don't want people to have to read 150 books or 1,000. I don't even know how many I've read to get all these lessons. I'm not saying you don't have to learn it on your own and take in what's yours and throw out the rest. But I'm like, if I have something that can help someone else, I want to share it. And I don't want people to have to struggle. And I want them to come to the conclusion. Mostly I wanted them to come to the conclusion sooner rather than later, like me, that it was anything that they really wanted was possible if they just believed it, but not like in a Disney movie, people like, but I think that's why Disney, I was talking to someone else today. I think that's why Disney is so successful in their messages, because it really is, they're inspiring people. So it's kids or not. That's why adults love those movies. They really are saying like, believe it. See it. Here it is. There's people out there that there's energy and there's wisdom and there's inspiration in everything you're doing. And I just think that it's just a message that people need to hear more and more and more, especially now in this pandemic age and everything that's going on. Because like you said, people get nervous. Oh, I should probably just be grateful for what I have. I'm not struggling. I still have a job and some people don't. So I just won't ask for anything else. And so like, that's not how the world's supposed to be experienced, but I think we're just brought up that way. And then, so we just take it and say, okay, I'll just, not only will I just be grateful for what I have, I won't ask for anything else. And I'll just live like in a medium, whatever.
Right.
We're not meant for that. We're meant for more.
Yeah, it's true. In the book, I talk about how gratitude, just you can be grateful and still want more at the same time. They're not like mutually exclusive things. And I think a lot of times people feel like they are, like it's not possible to experience both and to desire more. And the truth is life is about more. When we think about nature, it's constantly all about growth and cycles. And we as humans make ourselves wrong for wanting more. Mm-hmm. And, the purpose of life and desire is all about expansion. And if we feel like shrinking, that's most likely fear or doubt or confusion or something else, not true desire. So I think that's so important.
Right. Oh my gosh. So right on. So right on. How has writing the book impacted your life and your business? Did it do more for you than you thought it was going to do?
That's interesting. To be honest with you, like I'm so grateful that I wrote the book. And I feel like when people ask me if they should write a book, I don't always say an immediate yes. And here's why.
Yeah, tell me.
I do believe that I was put on this earth to write, and I will write more books. But if you have a business and you're writing a book, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And most likely you're marketing something else, you're selling a product. And so in order for the book to really, achieve massive success, to be on the New York Times bestseller or whatever, get into as many hands as possible, like you're going to have to put a launch strategy behind that. You're going to have to put money into getting it out into the world. It's going to take a lot of time and energy. And so I think it's really important for people to understand, is this truly part of my business model? Of course, it's probably part of their mission and their desire if they're thinking about it, but is it part of my business model? Is this the right time to launch the book? And sometimes your heart kind of overpowers you and you're like, I have to write this. I have to get it out in the world. And I totally get that. But I think for me, I wish I would have carved out more time to properly launch it. And to your point, this is not something that's going away. I can relaunch it if I want to. But because I was doing so many things at the same time, I feel like it kind of got lost. And so it's always amazing to hear from people like you who are reading it, because I don't know that I actually did it justice. And I don't know that I put it out in the way that I desired to. And so, we're always thinking about how can we relaunch the book? What can we do to promote it when we have, that period of time carved out? But the truth is because a book is a long game, you most likely need other things for, your income and revenue and growing the business while that kind of works in the background. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think that it of course has impacted lives, and just like any other overachiever, I desire it to do so much more.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the clarity around that, because I would say, if someone said, I want to write a book, should I would say yes immediately. But sorry, that is like, I don't know if you can hear that car. Someone's
That's okay.
I'm in the city and people like to do that in between the high rise. It's crazy. I think that I would say yes. Like if there's something a lesson you want to give or learn or teach other people, or hardship you want to share or whatever, and you think it's going to be impactful in a good way to people, I would say yes, write the book. But like you, I would say, what's your intention? Are you planning on helping people? Are you do you have a plan at all to get it out there? Because I didn't realize either. I'm sure, like you were saying, how much effort and time it takes you have to talk about it every single day. You have to tell people about it. You have to hand it to people, send it to people. I was just at the Chicago Public Library yesterday, bringing them a copy of it, and they have to decide if they want to include it in their 10-story building in their collection. It's like, it's just a book. Can you put it in with all of the other millions of books that are in the library? Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but it's really, you have to follow up with people. You have to, it's just there is so much that goes on behind it. And the guy who helped me publish my book, Ignite Press, his name's Everett O'Keefe. And he said, there's a lot that goes on. It's going to be something you'll have forever, but no one's going to know about it unless you tell them about it. And
exactly.
Even when you launch it, everyone's like so excited for you, but then like, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, now what now? What are you gonna do next month and the month after that and the month after that? And I forget whose book it was. Was it the Seed of the Soul, Gary Zukav? I think it was out for like 10 years before Oprah even had him on her program and talked about it. And then it became this national, so it was several years. It's crazy, but your book can live on for a long time, but until it gets to the right person or whatever to have all that exposure, it really is a long, long road. And I still would have written it. And I don't know that I would change that much. It's all about, the money to market it and PR and all that stuff. But little by little, it's just inching its way up. And for me, it was, it worked out with the timing and everything. But I would say to people, just set expectations. You're not, depends on what you want to have achieved and how long it's going to take you. And there are people out there that will charge you a lot of money to get it out there. And sometimes that works. And sometimes it gets on a TV show and no one buys it. So you just never know.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think you need to follow your heart, but I always think I have a bit of the, business mind in this moment, telling myself, let's play the whole tape through. Is this the right time for the book? Or do we want to launch something, get some revenue in the bank, and then we'll have more money to market the book next year? So I think like if you really desire to write a book, awesome, definitely do it. And if you're also running a business and there's a lot of things you're considering, just think about what's going to be, the best time to actually take on a project like that and do it justice.
Yeah. I totally agree. Oh, well, I love the book. So people want to work with you. I know you have online programs and coaching programs. I just finished one of your online programs, which was awesome and had a lot of breakthroughs in it. So we can talk about that another time. They want to work with you one-on-one or your programs or get your book. Where's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, just go to iheartmylife.com. We have all of our courses, we have live coaching programs, and yep, we have the book. And then, of course, you can listen to the podcast. It's the I Heart My Life show. So you can find that everywhere you can find podcasts.
The podcast is really good too, because I like that you share your wisdom and insights, and then sometimes you interview people and sometimes you talk to clients. So it's a good mix of whether you're building your own business or you just want to change something in your corporate life or your regular life. I think it speaks to everyone. So I definitely have found a lot of value in that. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Julie. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. And this book, you guys, it's special. It's really good. So if you're a self-help, personal development person, go out and get this book, I Heart My Life. You won't regret it. And thank you for your time today, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks, Julie.
Take care, everyone. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.